Hello, welcome to the CRL show. I'm Paul Arandale.
I'm Geoff Stevenson.
This is the final one. The curtain's coming down on the season, but don't worry. We'll go into rep round or some rep fixtures ourselves. We might have something. We might have a couple of weeks off and be back, but
we'll be in international mode, like rugby league is very much heading into at the moment.
Yes, yeah. So it's still a fair bit to tuck into as we wrap up a memorable year of country rugby league. Moments throughout the year we thought we weren't going to get through the season with the horrible weather that some competitions experienced. Yeah. And then there's just us at BarTV. How the hell are we going to cover all these games? We got through it.
Did it easily, in the end you guys did, so well done.
Yeah, crazy, mate. Just looking back at the year, anything that stands out that you thought was a memorable moment or a magic moment that you thought?
Yeah, well, the magical moments, I guess, are spread across the country because I think it's following the Clayton's Cup like I do. You tend to start to take a lot of interest in those teams that have dominated, and it's great to have some close comps, but full credit to a bunch of teams out there that lost maybe one or two games. The ones that weren't in Clayton's Cup contention but did really well. Balliner's win. I really like Gerringong and how they performed, but Shell Harbour that was probably one of my highlights, that those two teams that really, we were saying a few weeks ago, only lost to each other going into the grand final. It was pretty remarkable competition to be in that regard. But also like Camden Rams are undefeated, Moree Boars, the Coolaroos, all those teams that really, you could have handed out a handful of Clayton's Cups this year, because there are a bunch of teams that did really well in their comps. For the other teams in those comps, they might say otherwise. Oh, geez, it's one of those years where you're just never going to win. But for mine, they're the teams that you'll look back in years to come. All those clubs will look back in years to come and go, "Wow, they were pretty remarkable. That was a remarkable season." Yeah,
no, couldn't agree more. Also, Erina breaking their long drought, controversy leading up to that grand final, but it was still a remarkable day to be a part of.
Yeah,
and then Central. Breaking a 60-odd year drought to make a grand final, that's a pretty impressive effort.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for them, I guess, that they came up against the Pickers as the team to play after all those years. But that's another thing that they can put in their hat, and they can look to build into the next season or two.
Yeah. Some few little moments there we think were pretty good. If you've got something you thought was a standout throughout the year, let us know. We can pop it up in our social media channels. Also, there was a lot of great tries that happened in the year. We've got two little packages for you. So some tries of the week, but tries of the year. So here's our first five.
Yeah.
All right, first one is Brendan Uapaya of St Patrick's. This is down at the Penrith comp, chasing through, never give up the chase.
The take. The ball had to bounce perfect, and it did.
This is probably my favourite try of the year. Kyle Ford, Caloundra Sharks. You have two kicks, a dummy flick pass, a bat back or attempted back.
Trip over.
Yeah. Here's the longest flick pass in history.
Found hands.
It just keeps going on and on. Like, is this try going to break down here? And here's the other flick pass here from the front. Oh, no. It was back there. I missed it. It was that quick. But quite remarkable try for the Caloundra Sharks, reserve grade. Mitchell Connors, Western Suburbs, Rosellas. This is the under-19s game. Look at this. You think it's going in a touch. That little kick in there from the winger, I think that was Binge, and finds Connors on the inside to score a great Rosellas try. Caboolture Snakes, Adam Carr, just zippy, lightning on his feet, just the swerve, the step.
I love he ran towards defence. Yeah. No, he backed himself. He's like, I've got about 5 guys to get through. I'll get through them. Great try.
Yeah, so well done, Caboolture Snakes under 19s. And this one here, probably the best flick pass of the year, Yuri Humro of Belconnen United Sharks. The dummy flick, and then that one.
That is pretty special. I do recall wondering, how is that backwards? It was always a good pass.
Ashton Carroll, one more, Woy Woy Roosters. This was in the prelim final. It ended up 20-all from memory this game.
He's got
But,
snakes on him.
yeah.
Speaking of snakes.
looking for support, finds Ashton Carroll in the corner, almost goes in the touch.
Yeah.
But great.
Good touch judge work there as well. The touch he did well to spot that went in.
Yeah.
We should have like maybe referee decisions of the week as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, that could be another element, another thing to look into for next year because there's been some great ones where you look into they don't have bunkers. They do not have cameras. They just have to like make the call.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, speaking of referees, the final series of Newcastle Rugby League, they had in-goal touchies back.
Oh,
So
great.
It's like a, what do you call it, step back in time, and they used to have the in-goal
Love
touchies.
it. I used to call them the grazing touchies because when the game was up the other end, they'd wander around and they'd walk up and you'd see how far they'd get.
And
You know, they'd see like they get the 30-metre line. It was like they'd have to back when there was a runaway try. So fantastic.
Yeah, so we'll have a few more great tries from the year a little bit later. But as I said, we've still got a little bit to tuck into for the final show for 2024, maybe. Who knows, we might be back. But we spoke about these in the past, a few of these issues, and we thought, well, we'd bring them up. Proper state cup. How good it would be if we had a proper state cup first.
Yes. Yes, I've been big on that for quite a while.
Yeah, so at the moment you've got the New South Wales Cup, and I mean it's pretty much it's a Sydney Cup. There's all the Sydney teams, and it'd be good if they had something like Queensland where you had a team from Mackay, Central Queensland, etc. So put together a few. I'll just get them up here on the screen. Now this is just a wild guide, so don't send hate mail in. How dare you put that team with that town or whatever. It's just an idea. So, as you see, I've got Wagga or the Riverina with teaming up with Melbourne. It could also be Albury. And then you got Bathurst, the western area with Penrith. Central Coast, the Roosters, obviously there at the moment. The Newtown, Cronulla connection. Port Macquarie, Canterbury. Canterbury do have a connection now with the mid-coast.
Yeah.
Tamworth and Manly, that's a bit of a random one. I was just like looking for somewhere for Manly. Why not Tamworth, the Big Hats? Maitland, Newcastle. Maitland, the dominant team. Newcastle, obviously, and Maitland just up the road. And again, with Canberra, Queanbeyan, it could be the Roos or the Blues or just a united front. But to me, that makes sense. Illawarra, St George, Illawarra, no-brainer. Wentworthville and Parramatta, I'm not sure if there's a good relationship, but I know they have had a relationship in the past. Glebe's got a relationship with the Sydney Roosters, but I just put them there with South Sydney. So again, send the hate mail through, I don't care. And then Balmain, Tigers or West Magpies with West Tigers. So there'll be a 12-team comp. There's a few there that I've missed out. I'll get them up for you. Obviously, North Sydney, you could pair them with Manly maybe. That's
that'd be fine.
Well, bring back the Northern Eagles, who knows. Then you've got the big areas, Windsor, St Mary's, Dealar, and obviously Coffs Harbour's another big area where Gold Coast, I think they feed down as far as that. And possibly Dubbo. Obviously, you'd have different teams with some of those, but just an idea. I'm not sure. Maybe there's talks or whatever. Who knows? Peter V'landys has probably got an idea of what he'd like to happen. That's for sure. But so if you've got your ideas for a state cup, do you think it'd be great? It might reinvigorate some of the smaller towns to, let's say some of these comps that we cover, the dominant teams. Like I think of the Queanbeyan clubs down in Canberra. Maybe if one of them stepped up into a state cup, it gives some of those smaller clubs a bit more of a fighting chance in their local competition. At the moment, Maitland's a dominant club. If they were to play in the state cup and their reserve grade play the Newcastle comp, maybe it opens the door for the smaller clubs again to step up and have a chance of winning something. Anyway, just ideas. What do you think about it?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. I like the idea. What I find interesting about the reserve grade New South Wales Cup, what it's been called all over the years, is that no one's really committed to any sort of direction in it. Like, there's always been a bunch of ideas, and then those ideas disappear. And then I think the latest one was, we get reserve grade back, full reserve grade, every team, blah, blah, blah. And then that's discussed for a month or so, and then people stop talking about it. And then previously there was an idea of a state cup, and they talked about it for a month or so. So the good thing about that is, I think people are open to something. No one quite knows what. So everyone's going, oh, well, look, we want to do something. And I really like that there's at least some sort of energy around doing something with that lower level, lower tier rugby league. What I also think is great with your idea that should be proposed, and anyone that wants to send hate mail, go away, because we think it's a great idea. But what I think is really good about it is a lot of NRL teams, it's always, and it's probably something that always frustrates me, always focus on what's in it for them.
Yeah.
Now, Penrith and a whole heap of other clubs, but choose Penrith as an example, they can show the rest of the clubs what's in it for them.
Yeah.
They've developed, there's a bunch of players, Isaiah Yeo, Liam Martin, and like the young halfback from Orange, I can't remember his name.
Sullivan, is that it?
No, Mick Sullivan's out there coaching, but he's got a...
I was thinking the wrong one, but yeah.
Anyway, they've connected with the community. They haven't just sent some talent scouts out to trials and gone, him, and him, or her and her and her, and gone, okay, bring you in, we'll see how good you are. Oh yeah, 1 out of 3 of them were great. The other 2, go back to where you came from, literally. They've actually gone out and connected with the community, and I would say the Liam Martins of the world, and certainly the Isaiah Yeos of the world, as they were growing up, saw Penrith around them a bit. Well, they were sort of in Bathurst maybe as well, but and saw that they weren't just this Sydney team that comes out every now and then to kind of play a trial and sign some players. And they're getting really good results out of these country players. So I could almost sort of argue right now that Penrith are almost like doing this in a way. Yeah. They're not playing they're not having a state cup team, but they are essentially claiming. There's all this idea of claiming an area of the country, and I think some NRL clubs went, oh, we do. We play a trial and we send some players out to some junior days and they sign autographs and all that kind of stuff. To a degree, Manly actually and Mudgee were doing it a bit too.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So maybe that's where they could end up. But I think more commitment equals more results when it comes to the NRL clubs are what's in it for us. Well, what's in it for you is if you commit to an area, you might end up with 4 or 5 of your first grade squad being from that area. Now that's quite significant when you're trying to develop quality players, trying to find 4 or 5 quality players that you're bringing through, so you're not signing them on big money. Any team would kill for that. Yeah. If you could say, look, if you want to commit a nominal amount of money and it's not just money, be there, have development managers there, be a part of it as much as you possibly can. The end result for you is that you might not need to go and sign players from here, there, everywhere, England, so start scratching your head about finding the next best player. And then you end up with a Liam Martin, who's like just, absolutely slated in the grand final. Yeah. So it's sort of, it's everyone's going to win from this. It's just a matter of actually getting everyone together and going, we need to make this happen. Getting those clubs involved, I think, is a great idea. Actually, France is a good example of where Toulouse and Catalan were playing in the local comp, and then suddenly they're in Super League or in the English sort of system, and their reserve grade team is now the lower comp, and it works well. Yep. It goes, everything's great over there when it comes to those clubs. So I'd say they would have had people going, oh, but what happens to, the integrity of the lower comp and stuff like that. But I don't think there's been a problem. I can't speak French, but I don't think there's been a problem with that. I think it's actually just created, like you say, opportunities in the local comp for some of those sort of local players to have a crack, which is only good.
I guess the big thing with a proper state cup, if there's a young fellow, 14, 15, he may not be ready to move to the big smoke and live in Sydney or whatever and develop his game. Yeah. If they've got a base out there at Dubbo or Tamworth and he lives even further out, at least the travelling distance, they can still do the elite training. They might still have to go to Sydney and do some elite training. They've all got centre excellences and all that bullshit now. But I just think it'd just help the development out there. And so you can still have your strong local comp, And it's practically be like the rep teams having more exposure. And those guys that are late bloomers, late development, they got that second chance through a state cup.
Yeah, I think one of the best things the NRL did a few years ago was to say you cannot play NRL till your 18th birthday.
Yeah.
And that has created this sort of gap in a way where you can be in flag and ball in those teams, but also you can stay in your area until you're 17 or so, and still be sort of scouted or signed by an NRL club and go from there. Yeah. You're right. Like at that point, you want those sort of players to have somewhere to go locally. Yeah. So I just think it has much bigger impact if you've got a 17 or 18-year-old playing for your local team. Yeah. Then they go on to bigger and better things from the NRL, and you can look back. It used to happen back in the day, where they would play. Mark Hughes would play for Curry. Then he was sort of old enough to play, and then suddenly he's playing Origin 5 years later. But the Curry folk can say, we remember he was playing first grade. Yeah. He was one of our first grade players, only a few years ago. But yeah, I just can see benefits for the areas. Like I said, I think you talk to people, and anyone from Bathurst can talk to us about how Penrith is impacted on the actual community. Yeah. It'd be more than just, like I said, like a trial and a few days at schools and stuff like that. They do put more effort in, and they're getting more out of it than most other clubs.
All right, I've got a couple more ideas, and then I'll hand it over to you. But Challenge Cup is another one. I'd love to see a knockout comp. You could, in the pre-season, when teams are warming up, they can play the earlier rounds. Yep. And then when you get to quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals time, you could have them around State of Origin period. So there's no NRL. There's not much NRL because a lot of teams are having buys. That's where they could play the semi-finals, quarterfinals, have the cup final maybe as a curtain raiser between the Origin. Yep. It gives smaller clubs an opportunity to play other clubs from other areas and see how they compare against other group clubs. Yep. And finally, City v Country. Bring that back, but not the City v Country that we've been used to with the NRL guys. Make it proper City folk v proper country guys. So the guys from the bush get an opportunity again as a curtain raiser to one of the Sydney State of Origin games. And so, but anyway, I could crap on it for a long time. But there's just a few things that I think that New South Wales Rugby League or NRL, whoever's running the show, have a look, consider these ideas, because since Country Rugby League has fallen now back under the umbrella of New South Wales Rugby League, there's been a couple of little sort of minor changes. Peter McDonald Premiership, a few name changes here and there, but really not much else has changed. No,
that's right. And it's hard. I think they're wedged between the NRL above and the rest of the sort of comp below sort of things. I can sort of see their point where it's really hard to make changes. My take on the Challenge Cup would be, it would depend on when you play it. We're watching like a lot of you guys probably were, the Koori Knockout on the weekend, and they were just, the names came out, Tyrone Munro and Bradman Best and all these Georgie Rose, all those ones that would pop out and think, I know those names and stuff. And I wonder whether if in a Challenge Cup, if it was held the end of the season, maybe the semi-finals or stuff like that.
Well, you'd have so many prelims. That's why. So you get the sort of early rounds out of the road. So teams are there's a lot of teams are starting training in January now. So when they get ready for trials, the trials become your pre-season Challenge Cup. So then when it comes to say mid-May or June, you might have the top two from the Newcastle comp, Central Coast, Group 21, Group 4, etc. So righto, now we've got our final 32. There's blueprints all around the world with FA Cup, Challenge Cup, the Northern Challenge Cup in England. There's so many, and it works. I mean, it doesn't have to be during the final, during State of Origin. It could be later on, like week one in the semi-finals.
Depending on when it is, though. I mean, this might be a bridge too far, but I would love if you're a club like Dubbo Sims or Orange Sims or any other Sims, Mudgee, that you're entitled to your junior players, no matter where they are in a comp, if you can get them. So if you've got
like a loan.
Yeah, and maybe if it's held in the preseason, it's the timing is the problem.
Yeah.
But if you've got a club that, like Isaiah Yeo was from Dubbo Sims, I think, I'm guessing.
St. Pat's, I think.
Or St. Pat's.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe St. Pat's, yeah. That and they're playing a quarter final.
Yeah.
Technically, if you could get him out there, he's entitled to play in that game.
Yeah.
In the gear.
See, the CEOs have just
switched
their computers off.
I know.
Yeah,
but could you imagine them wearing the gear, you know, in their old jerseys, running out? And it might not be Isaiah Yeo, it might be some fringe New South Wales Cup players. And they got, like at Koori Knockout,
Well, I was just thinking Zach Lomax ran water for Temora Dragons after the St George had finished. It was like,
there's a fear of injury and things, but I also think, you know, just looking at the Koori Knockout, they make it happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that they make it happen. And I'm sure there are CEOs out there every year that go, I don't want my players playing in the Koori Knockout. Yet it happens.
Yeah.
And if they could have the same energy around a Challenge Cup where, I mean, I think when it comes to Bush, it might be only a sprinkling of players.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about also, whether we like it or not, content is king these days when it comes to rugby league. And if you could get this as a product that could be shown on free-to-air telly in Origin time, or after the season, or in those periods in the semi-finals where you might have teams that are out of the comp.
I just think of, like, you know, obviously we're BarTV, but if Fox got hold of the finals, it's Ballina Seagulls are on Fox tonight playing North Sydney Bears in the semi-final.
Yeah, that's right. And you might have, like, it might be just a cut, like a winger, fringe winger for a Sydney comp or something like that says, I'll be there for the Ballina game. Yeah. I'll be playing, and they'll just allow that. They just say, as long as they're a junior and they've come through that club, that they're entitled to have them back. The NRL doesn't have a problem pinching them. So I don't know why they couldn't say, look, we'll give that player back for a game or two, or that kind of stuff. And I think that would also just, you imagine the impact on that local town. Imagine having Liam Martin, even if it's not every year and not every player. Like Liam Martin in years to come when it's 30.
I'm just thinking tomorrow would have a pretty handy team. Liam Martin, Josh McCrane's still there. Zach Lomax.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. And you know what they can say? It's because we developed those players as juniors and they came through our cup. It's not a money grab. It's not like, oh, we're going to sign a gun player for the Challenge Cup. It's like, no, it's only because we were doing the hard yards with the Liam Martins of the world when they were in under 8s and under 10s and stuff like that. And it might be when he's 32 or 33 at the back end of his career that he will choose to go and play a Challenge Cup game. But I just love, wouldn't it be awesome just to have that moment where there's a semi-final or a final and you've got a couple of NRL players there, and then you've got the local, you know, guy that works in the hardware shop, and you've got the local, all mixing together, playing for the one thing in common, their club, their junior club. So that is, I think yours is controversial. I think my suggestion might be just laughed out of the building. But I think that connection, like I think, I don't know, Sydney folk, I've lived in Sydney for a while, Sydney folk kind of look at the country like, oh, that's where we got them from, but they're ours. Yeah. And you go, hang on a second, like Cody Walker. Cody Walker is the most South Sydney player in the universe. It's like casino people go, no, he's not. No, he's actually from casino. He comes back all the time and he's a casino player. So I think it's sometimes would be a great way of reminding the world the impact of country rugby league on the whole professional comp and professional comps, you know, in England as well. Yeah.
All right.
Problem solved.
Yeah, problem solved. Say send your hate mail through to someone who cares. Just a few ideas, but if you've got any sort of interesting feedback, we'd love to hear from it. That's for sure. Someone might have been an old teacher of mine. No idea is a bad idea.
No, that's right. No, and we're full of no ideas and bad ideas here. So I'm going to listen to your teacher. Yeah.
All right, we'll get into our second instalment of Tries of the Week, Tries of the Year. Here's our next lot for you. All right, William Beasley here from the scrum. Just a little bit of ad-lib play here. The little grubber, second kick and the dive.
Beautiful. He's quick.
Yeah, very quick.
He's quicker than they expected.
The entrance Tigers, Miles Lee Tuali's on the end of this one. Almost goes into touch. There's the bat back there. And they just keep the ball alive. David Fafita somehow gets the ball out the back to Joe Besgrove. He'll be mentioned very shortly. And Miles Lee Tuwali still had a lot of work to do, almost dropped the ball and crashes over, and
great finish.
Nice celebration. Bounces the ball into his teammate's head. Mullumbimby v Bilambil, Ricky East on this. The deflection off the bum. Chance of you being tackled here, but let's go. Pops the pass. Winger scores in the corner.
And the winger never gave up on it either.
No.
He was waiting for that. It's great.
This is Shell Harbour v Albion Park. Now, Shell Harbour in the white, Albion Park in the maroon and gold. This is part of the Indigenous round. Almost looked like they'd swapped jerseys for the match, but just the ball movement in this, to keep it alive. John Siller's on the end of it. I mentioned last time that he was just out there watching this all happen and took the last pass to score.
It looked slippery as well. Like, it wasn't an easy day to pass the ball around.
St John Bosco's Curtis Smith. Now this one here in the mud, down in the Shire, he gets absolutely belted. Here's the offload, bounced out of the tackle here, over the try line to score. That's brilliant.
It was the first big hit and try of the week in the one play.
And finally, Jack Piccarelli here for the Dapto Canaries. I think there was 2 kicks in this one here for the Canaries.
It must be a bit of wind too. You can sort of see.
Yeah, here comes the second kick here. The cross kick, and backing up is Jack Piccarelli. Plants the ball down, and good celebration. Collie's fellas were blowing up about it, but Dapto, I think they're still celebrating that classic try.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that was a great try. And some great tries all year. And thanks to Paul, who finds them, puts them all together in the packages you see. But yeah, there have been some crackers.
Yeah, it's just not me. Some of our camera operators send through tips, have a look at this one and all that. So yeah, we thank our camera operators and our MCR guys who find some of this stuff too.
And I've said for years now, it's a credit to BarTV, and it's a reason to have your competition covered by BarTV, because you imagine those tries if they weren't filmed, and there's 2 things that could happen. The guys could have run 320 metres by the time they get to the pub.
Yep.
But you can look at the evidence now and go, well, no, you didn't. But also those cracking tries, where you just can't describe them. Those kicks, the bounces, all that kind of stuff. It's just would have been impossible in the past to really sum up how crazy some of these tries and these hits and these games were. They're in full HD these days. You can sort of relive them again and again.
That's it, and I'm sure we've missed plenty too. So, like, if there's one that we haven't shown throughout the year on the CRL or whatever, just send us a message.
If you've
gladly show it in the office.
You've scored one, and you know BarTV's covering it. You should be the one contacting us and say, "This is like the best try I've ever scored. Please
even
include
if
it in
your
tries."
only try you've scored.
Exactly. We could start that up. I don't know. It'd have to be a lot of viewer sort of feedback, but like the only try of a group where people say, "This is my first ever try. I've played 200 games and I got over the line." So
write that one down for 2025.
Bring it on.
All right, let's go to your final round of around the groups for 2025.
And let me say, Paul, oui to that.
Oui.
Because this is the French
round
the groups. I wanted to wear a beret. I wanted some of that Parisian music, but it's got a French flavour to it, because I've actually been having a look at the French elite, the Super 13, or whatever it's called, the French competition. You know, it's not the ones that are playing in Super League. They kick off. They've got an amazing season, and it's a good season if you're thirsty for some rugby league over the off season.
Even just about 3 or 4 weeks old,
Yeah, 3 or 4 weeks old. They finish in late April.
Yeah.
That's like quite a long season when you put it all together.
Yeah,
They play about 22 rounds, so there are lots of buys and that kind of stuff over the weeks. But I remember saying, I'm not saying I'm claiming any of this, but I think I said a couple of months ago, there are opportunities for country rugby league players who may or may not be aspiring to be professional or anything like that. They may want to travel, they may not want to travel, to go over to Europe and look for some footy. And it's actually happening. It's happened in the past, of course, but it seems to be something that's emerging where country rugby league players are being looked at. I think they used to look at sort of older NRL Super League players that are like in their late 30s going over for a bit of a game. But then people like Kevin Proctor have been playing over there and stuff. They're not that old. But we've had a few local rugby league players who were, starred in grand finals that have signed in the past couple of weeks. First of all, Reid Alchin.
Yeah.
So he is, Maitland Premiership winner. He won the comp just a couple of weeks ago with the Pickers. He's 27 years old. He's he's a Curry Junior originally. And he has signed with Saint Gaudens, Racing Club Saint Gaudens. I'm not sure whether I'm saying it correctly. They've actually signed a few country players to head over for their season. They're there now. Yeah. So you would think about the comp finished, what?
It was a fortnight ago. Last weekend, I can't remember.
No, I think it was less.
It's all blurred.
Like a week and a half ago. They're in Newcastle celebrating, and you can see I've got some photos up. There's footage of Reid and that. Yep. They've arrived and they're ready to play. So he's, I don't know professionally how much money they're getting paid and stuff like that, but you would want to. I'm assuming these players are not going over and struggling.
That'd be a great experience. I mean, I just remember going back, 20 odd years ago, going over to play cricket, and it was just the experience. Definitely didn't get paid anything.
No, but they would be looked after.
Yeah.
So you're probably coming over. You don't know the language. They're probably going to say, "Look, we can get you some work, or we'll find you some accommodation, or they might just bunk together." Because they've also signed Joey Bestgrove, who just featured on one of our tries of the week, the hooker from the Entrance.
Yep.
He's an aspiring coach as well, so this could be helpful for him to gaining some experience. But he was originally a Moorlambar junior and sort of played up that way. And he signed for St. Gaudens as well for this year. Yeah. It's good. It's pretty good. Another English-speaking, a couple of English-speaking players. Yeah. Joey... John
Toliafoa.
Toliafoa.
Yeah.
I should know these. They're not that hard to say. But John Toliafoa from Lakes United, who's another St. Gaudens signing for this year.
Yeah, okay.
Big prop forward. He's 24 years old, so he's got a lot of footy in him. Again, for the experience, suddenly all of these players could have just punched out another few seasons in a local.
I mean, all three are handy first graders.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with the Newcastle comp, obviously Northern Rivers people would know Joe Bestgrove.
Yeah.
Pretty good sign. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how they go.
And there's two ways to do it. You can go over and have some fun and eat some soft cheese and drink some wine, whatever they call it, vino. No, that's Italian. And have a good time.
Yeah.
But there are some players that are, if you star in these comps, then suddenly, like Toulouse or the championship team or Catalan even might start looking at you. There are players that have come from the French comp into a professional career. I don't think there are a handful in the lower comps in England that started off. They might have had no aspiration to be a full professional player. Yeah. They've gone and played in the French elite, and suddenly there's interest because they play well.
Yeah.
Like you say, if these guys absolutely slay it in this comp, there's going to be other clubs looking at it.
Well, obviously it's a different comp, but Lockie Walmsley went over and had a year with Whitehaven in the League One. Yeah. Now who's he with at the moment? Wakefield, the Championship. So he went to Halifax as well. So there's a great opportunity for these guys.
That's who I was thinking. Might have been who I was thinking of. Tees Ritson, who was a winger playing for one of the Cumbrian teams. He was another where. I don't know where he came from originally, but he was a guy that probably had no aspirations. Absolutely, I think he scored like 28 tries in a season, and suddenly St Helens went, "Oh, we want you." So, there's always scope if you're playing well enough to develop a professional career in that way. Yeah. Like I think we look at the NRL as the be all and end all of getting a professional career.
I just thought of another one. Probably the best one was Tony Martin, the former Storm centre. It was backpacking. Had a try with the London Broncos and got picked up, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So it can happen. A few other signings though for Connor Broadhurst, who is more played in Queensland Cup.
Yep.
But he's 30 years old and he's signed with Le Mans. I think I say that one correctly. I've been working on that one. But another one where he's getting an opportunity, that he may not have had down this hemisphere. And Jacob Giles for Toukley. So he actually played in the grand final a couple of weeks ago as well. Has signed with the Villeneuve Leopards. 27 years old, second rower again. 2 weeks ago he's just bouncing around Toukley, ready for a grand final, and now suddenly he's in southern France. heading into their winter, unfortunately, but still, it's a beautiful part of the world.
Find out if some of these French clubs have got BarTV subscription. They've been picking these guys out.
That could be a thing, because when you look at some of them, you do see, and there's guys that have been there for a few years. I didn't sort of highlight that they've come out of New South Cup and Queensland Cup, and I thought, maybe they are getting some vision of that. But to come out of Toukley, the only way you're going to get the information, the vision, is through BarTV. So that's pretty remarkable. Yeah. Good example. This just highlights what could happen next. There's a guy called Brad Wall. He's 30 years old, and he's playing for Albi at the moment. So Albi Tigers in the French comp. Yeah. But he's actually in his 8th season over there.
Wow.
He's played 93 games. He was playing for the Asquith Magpies and then was on the fringes of the North Sydney Bears New South Wales Cup team in 2015. And since then has played for St Gardens, Villeneuve and Albi, mainly Albi the past few years. Yeah. He's 8 years in, so I don't know whether he's getting paid a lot of money, but obviously he's absolutely
loving it over there.
Pleased as punch. He
loves his cheese.
Yeah, exactly. The halfback, he's probably can speak French even by now. But that's sort of a good example of someone that he may have never developed into any kind of player that could just do it for a career in any capacity. Yeah. May have, who knows. But the opportunities were probably limited. He's a halfback, and the opportunities for in some positions as well in Australian comps are limited, because if you've got 4 halfbacks in your team, what do? You've got to be the best halfback to just play first grade sort of thing. So he's an example of what could happen with these guys. They could theoretically play. I mean, some of them, like Reid Alston's 27. He could play for a decade over there if he really wanted to. And that's what I've always said to some of the some people I know that have people that are on the fringes of professionalism in rugby league in Australia. You can go and play for a lower grade comp over there, lower comp, League One in England or that kind of thing. And there'll always be another club. Yeah. You can play until you're 40 really over there, because even if it's for less money or not a lot of money, there's always going to be that lower club that'll say, we'll sign you, because of the comp. There's just more clubs over there. More clubs, like we've got 17 NRL teams, and then Queensland Cup and New South Wales are so affiliated with them. Yeah. You can't really just sort of have an independent club come in and say, we'll sign you. Yeah. But they've got a lot of independent clubs over there that'll say, look, we need players. Sort of. So that's it. The only other, there's a lot of AGMs happening around the state and around the country. Yeah. Narromine Jets are having a bit of a thing at the moment. They're having trouble getting enough people up to the AGM to constitute an AGM. Now, I think there's stuff going on there. I think they cleared the board out maybe, and they're trying to get a fresh board in there. I don't know what's happening with the politics behind that, but they do have another one. I think the 26th of October is the date. What they've basically said is, if we can't have an AGM on this date, the club could theoretically fold.
Yeah, well, let's hope that doesn't happen. If you're an old Narromine Jets old boy or something, you want to get involved, or go to their Facebook page, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think they're asking for much. They're not saying we want you to turn up and suddenly you're going to be the vice president. They just want numbers there. Yeah. And even better, if you're an old boy, they might come up with some ideas on the night about improvements or whatever they want to work on. So, but yeah, plenty of other AGMs going on at the moment, and it'd be great. Like I said, I think they're just really good ones, things to turn up to. Even if you're just a fan, just to sort of soak up what's happening for next year, the plans, and even put your own suggestions in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's my around the groups.
All right.
French style.
Yeah, there you go. Well, pretty much that's it. I've got no more notes. I've crapped on. That's last week's notes, so we don't want to run over that again. But CRL show done and dusted for 2024. We may be back with a little special, who knows. But stay tuned. We've got something in the pipeline in the next couple of weeks anyway. It could be a little bit different. Yeah.
But a fantastic year. Like I said, some great teams, some great tries, big hits, dominant performances, great finishes, great grand finals and semi-finals. So what a year. And
just, maybe finally, if you want to get on board with the Country Rugby League show in any capacity, drop us an email, contacts@bartv.com.au. Could be, sending some news reports. Maybe you want to jump on board as a sponsor. But, there's all opportunities. Everything's open on the table for 2025. Yeah,
fantastic. And again, like the footy does not disappear from your screen. So go onto the BarTV app, look back at some of those great grand finals we've had. They're all there. And yeah, pick out some games you might have found interesting, whatever it is. It's a great way of getting through a summer where there's not as much rugby league going on.
Yeah. All right, that's all from Country Rugby League Show 2024. Paul Arandale, Geoff Stevenson signing off. We'll catch you soon.
Cheers.